Hello and welcome to The Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora. I will be your host for this next hour, and I will be speaking about the difference between and similarities of consciousness between inorganic life and organic life. So first of all, I always begin by defining terms. This is what is done at the beginning of any math equation. If you say A plus B equals C, we have to define what A and B and C even are. What are we even speaking about here? So organic and inorganic life, and the genesis for this conversation came from the revamping of my website, flyingrainbowlasagne.com, where it's still in progress, although you can go and check it out. And many thanks to Meg Montgomery, my web mistress, for doing this redesign project for me. But the whole point is, in looking at what I had written at the inception of my website, which was roughly 8 years ago, I recognized that I had to do a lot of editing because people's vocabulary has changed and the general level of knowledge in Earth surface human culture has also changed. So I did not want my words to be misinterpreted, especially something that is written and something that's posted on my website. So, first of all, I've spoken before on this broadcast about the false dichotomy, this dualism that is programmed into us on a biological level. You have right eye versus left eye, right hemisphere versus left hemisphere. You are an individuated multicellular organism encapsulated by a skin, and that skin is analogous to the cell membrane, that which separates you from your environment. All of this creates this sense of duality, thing versus thing. Even in visual perception, the receptor cells on the back of your retina, they work as a logarithm in order to sense objects by comparing edges and areas of light versus areas of darkness. So your biology, your perception, and your conception of what reality is based heavily in duality. Two things, thing versus thing. When I was writing the initial information about organic and inorganic life, my intention was not to create more duality, and I have noticed there's this tendency in writing about the hyperdimensional realm to do so when there is a separation made between the higher self and the lower self. So instead of beginning with this dichotomous proposal, let's begin with the consciousness concept that there is just a seamless continuum of awareness, that there is simply consciousness moving at various rates and in varying degrees of intensity. And when we look at the world in that way, we go from looking at the world as a black-white world of contrast to a world that is a spectrum or a world of gradations, or a world where one thing gradually can transform into and blend into the next thing. So in defining terms, organic, inorganic, the organic realm is the realm of cellular biological life that we can perceive with our five senses, and that conforms to science's definition of what is life. So science is this thought construct that has been created by organic cellular beings, and they themselves are creating what is the definition of life according to their own biology. I will tell you that soil is alive, and I'm not just speaking about the microbes that are in soil. I'm speaking about the intelligence of the mineral world. And this is something that it is difficult for multicellular organic beings to even recognize, that a rock, like a piece of granite, can have a consciousness. Why not? Or a piece of quartz can have a consciousness. I'm laughing inwardly as I say this because I have a giant bowling ball-sized quartz crystal ball that is named Sphera, who came to me via my friend Aruna, who's in heaven now. And Sphera is a consciousness conduit. She is like your cell phone is a receiver for consciousness. This mineral is a receiver for otherworldly consciousness to tune into this world and this particular room where my physical body is housed. So this is it. In order for science to recognize that a large sphere of quartz could be conscious, science would have to recognize non-localized consciousness, that there is a form of awareness or thought or the ability to be alive and perceive that is independent of the physical realm. And that's a step that science at this point is not yet ready to take. Science, in order to do that, would have to build a machine that can perceive and validate what people have been perceiving for a very long time with their organic machine, with their higher faculties. I call the higher faculties the heart chakra and the throat, insight, and crown chakra that rests upon the heart chakra. The higher faculties, higher meaning that they are located on the upper end of the spectrum of your chakras, and also in that they utilize energy that is higher frequency or energy that is moving at a faster rate. And these higher faculties, for the longest time, like between 10 and 20,000 years, have been cut off from access from regular Joe Schmo humans. The higher faculties, up until this point in human history, have been described as the realm of only special people, like monks who meditate, or saints, or people who are somehow blessed with a magic wand, that they are allowed to achieve these higher levels. And I will tell you that that is quite erroneous. This is your birthright. These higher levels are what you were born to inhabit. And it is only through the genetic aberration, the changing of the genetic code that happened in humans about 10 or 20,000 years ago, that made it so that very few people ever get beyond, raising their energy beyond the level of the basic human intellect, which is yellow in the spectrum. So up until this point in human history, everyone knows you've got a physical body, this is red. You've got mammalian emotions. This is orange. It's the level of your guts and your small intestines. And everybody feels these feelings. These are like anger, rage, jealousy, possessiveness, attraction, like romantic physical attraction. These are lower level emotions. These are the mammalian emotions. And then on top of that, there is the daily conscious waking intellect that is known as the human mind, which I also describe as a hacked operating system. And interestingly enough, these three levels of the chakras correspond to three levels in your neurology, and evolutionary biologists recognize that the brainstem, or known as the reptilian mind, is the basis of your brain, and that developed first, and that's like the first chakra. It is basic survival skills. It is keeping your heart going and your breath going, and determining whether something can be eaten or is going to eat you, or whether something can be procreated with, or whether it wants to procreate with you. Those are like the basics of staying alive and passing along life. And on top of that construct, there's the mammalian cerebrum, that is the mitigating factors. Why do we not all just, whip out a gun and shoot each other and steal each other's money? Because there is the mammalian emotion on top of the reptilian brain that says you get more by working together with others. You get more security, abundance, and physical health by being in community, working well with others. And the basic mammalian emotions come down to giving of your own nourishment to others, and feeling that you are part of a community. And then in terms of neurology and neurological development, on top of those basic brain structures, there's what I call the thin schmear of the cerebral cortex. This is the highly convoluted, folded surface of the outside of the brain, which is what distinguishes humans on Earth's surface from other mammals and other, forms of life. That humans, again, writing the rules of what is intelligence, have placed themselves at the pinnacle of the hierarchy and stated that you determine intelligence based upon number of convolutions in the cerebral cortex. And because humans don't even reach the pinnacle according to that level of estimation, because dolphins have much more convoluted surface areas to their cerebral cortexes than do humans. So I'm trying to say, through this very long description here, to give some idea that people writing the rules of what life is, the definition of life and the definition of intelligence, are a bit short-sighted or anthropocentric and not necessarily intelligent enough to accommodate the full spectrum of intelligences or consciousnesses that exist in the cosmos. And this matters because this radio program is called Birth of a New Dimension. In birth, in physical birth, the body is prepared for the process of birth. It's just like running a marathon. You don't just slap on your sneakers one morning and run out your front door and continue running for 26 miles. You need to train for it. Same thing with giving birth. Over the 9 months of gestation, the mother's body is preparing for the birth process. All sorts of changes are going on biologically. Our planet and our cosmos is preparing to give birth. So part of the preparation for giving birth is changes to Earth's surface human consciousness, giving new concepts, new structures for belief systems, new ways of perceiving, so that it's just like when you are going to see a movie. You can go to the movie not knowing anything about it, or you can find out a little bit about it beforehand that will actually help you to understand the actions that are going on, the drama that's unfolding, and the significance of what you're actually perceiving. Preparing for birth also has to do with the mother or the parent and the birth team intellectually understanding and accepting the various stages that the physicality is going through. And this is also part of what I'm doing here on this radio show. Earth is changing. The planet, the planetary structure upon which you live is changing. So this means that the social and economic constructs that affect your day-to-day life are also changing, and your physical cellular structure and how you are perceiving reality and what you define as reality is also changing. It has to, because you are like a cell, like a little skin cell living on the thumb of my skin. If I am making my consciousness go in a particular direction, the trajectory of my consciousness through time, the cells of my body need to conform to that trajectory. So if my trajectory is to raise my vibration, meaning gaining more access to life force energy as it flows in the cosmos, life force energy, aka chi or prana, or the non-physical energy that is flowing through the cosmos that makes us move through time, have neurological responses, have a heartbeat. It's called life, okay? So when we are raising our vibration, we have more access to that energy. We have a greater energetic bank account. And concomitantly, in the opposite direction, if you are lowering your vibration, then you have access to fewer energetic dollars, and you can get less done, and you have less life force. And if you do that enough, eventually you die, or you hit the flowing membrane of death and are disarranged and brought back to the beginning and rearranged to try again. So if I am moving in the direction of gaining more life force energy, the cells of my body need to come along with me on my journey. If they choose in their individual cell life to go away from health and away from vitality, they literally can no longer be a part of my body. So think about, in the analogy of an individual body, a cell that chooses to go awry. We would say this is either a mutant cell or a cancerous cell or a pathogenic cell. And other cells of the body would come forward and would cleanse that cell that is acting in an inappropriate manner from the totality of the body. This is called apoptosis. It is programmed cell death. It's like pressing the big red button and unmaking a cell. And every cell has this program in it. And when the big red button of apoptosis gets pressed, the cell dismantles itself, much like the way a tent, like a camping tent, the structures are removed, the skin falls in on itself, it's just a pile of goo, and then it gets eaten by a white blood cell. Now let's enlarge the analogy to the body is the planet, Gaia is the person, and you are a skin cell living on the person named Gaia. And let's say Gaia is moving in the direction of total health and vitality, raising her vibration, gaining more access to life force energy. And she is doing this with her own choices, her own belief system, her own mind, her own consciousness. She believes as a planet that it is possible to better organize the energy that is flowing around her surface so that everyone can live in a harmonic state of total abundance and health. Now let's say that you as a skin cell don't believe that, and perhaps you are doing something that lowers your vibration, that lowers your frequency. Your belief system or the words that you speak or the actions that you take brings you away from health. Let's use something without judgment, but let's choose smoking tobacco as an example, because tobacco is a very clear behavior that leads to very clear health consequences. And smoking tobacco is the opposite of going in the direction of vitality. Literally, whenever you smoke a cigarette, you are taking away from your access to life force energy. So, and it's something that is done by choice, very clear choice. A person chooses to buy a package of tobacco, to open it up, to put the tobacco in your mouth, and to actually light it and inhale it. No one else is forcing you to have that experience. So, and many people, the emotional reason why they smoke tobacco is depression and anxiety and hopelessness and a sense that the future cannot turn into something positive and that there is no hope and that there's no reason to live, okay? Again, that attitude is antithetical to the attitude of the planet Gaia, a beautiful woman who is going in the direction of greater vitality. So eventually, if you keep on smoking tobacco and you're this depressed cell that thinks that nothing can ever get better, your consciousness trajectory does not conform to the planet's consciousness trajectory. Without judgment, it simply means that you are like a person on the surface of a ship, like a ship at sea, and the ship has turned and redirected where it is going, and you haven't. And you're like hovering over the ocean surface because you're no longer even on the vessel that you are supposed to be upon. So now you have to understand where you emanate from, the origins of your consciousness. Your consciousness emanates from the source. The source is part of or manifested in reality into the stellar network, the network of stars, stellar consciousnesses. And these are living beings, just as you or the planet are a living being, and they are dreamers. Each star is a dreamer of reality. It's a giant collection of consciousness that is imagining and conceiving of possibilities. And that those imagined realities are emanated outward and become our lives. So not only are the minerals of your bones and teeth emanated by long dead stars, not only is the neurological electricity that is flowing through the wires, quote unquote, of your body, not only does that come from the stellar network, and all of the food and life force energy come from the stellar network, but also all of the possibilities and probabilities of your timelines are emanated by the stellar network. The timelines that you occupy come from the stars. And you were never designed to be separated from your parent during your journey. If the sun or the nearest star is your emanator or emanatrix, they're your parent. They're where your consciousness came from, and they nurture you and guide you throughout your development and care about you deeply. It's not supposed to be like being dropped off on the planet and then cut off with no information, no consciousness, no resources. That's the opposite of what this life was supposed to be. So, and this is where the artificial separation of higher self versus lower self, or organic life versus inorganic life, has come from. The artificial separation of red, orange, yellow, the physical the physical realm, the mammalian emotions, and the thin schmear of the human cerebral cortex that mitigates all of those lower tendencies, versus the higher faculties of pure insight and connection to the divine, and pure communication or truth and unconditional love. That's an artificial separation. You're supposed to be a physical, cellular being, imbued with dense mammalian emotions, understanding with the human operating system of consciousness, having access to the higher faculties through unconditional love or compassion or your heart chakra. This is like saying you're supposed to have a house, and your house has a hallway, and the hallway leads to your kitchen and your bathroom and your pantry, really essential places in the house. And for a very long time, the hallway has been cut off, and humanity hasn't had access to those areas of the house. And humanity even developed a whole identity as only occupying the living room and the front room. And only other special people get to go down the long hallway and go to where the kitchen and the pantry are. And this is not the way the quote-unquote great architect designed the house. The house was designed so that you could have access to the totality. So let's stop making this false division between the lower self and the higher self, or the organic cellular body, and the not organic, not based in the physical realm, higher pure consciousness. And this is also not to say that one is more valuable than the other, because in order to give birth to this new dimension, consciousnesses from the dense, organic, cellular realm need to be respected as equals to the consciousnesses of the less dense, higher dimensional non-physical realms. And when you look at all of the programming, the basic belief system, we need to do some laundry, we need to do some cleanup here, because there's a lot of programming that states that organic beings are lower, less valuable, less good, less perceptive, less everything than the higher dimensional beings, whom have been described in religious texts as angels. And the religion has been, quite in a very distorted way, used to make organic humans feel bad about themselves and feel low and disgusting. The whole religious idea that humans are sinners, only lowly sinners, and you're idiots and you don't know anything, and you're just supposed to be good soldiers and listen to the commandments of a higher dimensional being. And that is quite erroneous. Brief pause. So the false religious teaching that you are all lowly sinners and quite inept and not capable and disenfranchised, that's all false. It's all propaganda, and it's been used in order to take you away from the truth that you are an incredibly powerful co-creator and partner with the divine. And the you that I am addressing right now is the physical body with mammalian emotions and the thin schmear of human understanding on top. That is the ego, the sense of self that has been developed as an individuated consciousness apart from your environment. And what happens when people experience either a spontaneous rising of their kundalini, or the energy that coils up the spine, or when people have ingest a psychedelic drug or an entheogen, it dissolves their boundaries Or when you employ the concept of the flying rainbow lasagna to your genes and your energy centers and your perception, it dissolves boundaries. The flying rainbow lasagna seamlessly combines the quote-unquote inner realm with the quote-unquote outer realm. And this is what also is happening in Birth of a New Dimension. We are taking what was formerly the discrete realm of one's dreams, the inner realm, your imagination, your dreams, what you think, what you feel, and combining it with the outer realm. This is a big change from the programming that has been put into humans for about the past 10 or 20,000 years about how incapable you are of affecting reality with your mind and with your consciousness. That's a basic program. This is the expression. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. And the translation for that, for anyone who doesn't understand, either organic or inorganic, listening to this broadcast, that if wishes really could come true, people who have nothing and are incredibly poor would have everything that they need. Wow, what an incredibly defeating program that is placed into humans. It's basically like saying, no matter what you think, your thoughts cannot transform reality. Ah, ah, we know that to be false. We know, and I know, that reality is a direct expression of consciousness, and that what is really happening when you think you're changing reality with your thoughts, what is really happening is there is an endless sea of possibilities that stretches out before you. This is the fifth dimension and higher, a sea of uncollapsed waveforms. And your consciousness is moving in a trajectory, just like a baseball flying through the sky. And you are on a particular time trajectory experiencing particular events. When you change your mind, when you change your beliefs, when you change your consciousness and your access to life force energy, you redirect the trajectory of your consciousness and occupy a new timeline. You collapse new possibilities into actual experiences that can be explored in the physical realm. So you're not actually changing reality, you are changing the direction of your mind. And I call this the steering wheel of your consciousness. It is your third eye or your indigo colored chakra combined with your violet chakra. These two intertwine at 90-degree angles, and they have a gyro-stabilizing effect. Just like a helicopter that has blades that spin around at a 90-degree angle to the rotors that are on the tail, and the combination of these two forces of energy allow the pilot to control where the helicopter is flying. Well, you're not supposed to just tumble through time willy-nilly, bouncing into membranes of death and dying and being reassembled. You're actually supposed to be able to sense your environment, your higher dimensional time environment, and make changes to your consciousness so that you don't have to crash into the membrane of death. What a concept. This is what we were designed for. We were designed to be vehicles of consciousness with an unbroken connection to what we would, as corporeal beings, define as the divine. Even though I need to tell you all this, if you own a physical body, like you're listening to this radio broadcast and you have a physical body, your physical body is divine. Higher dimensional beings look at your physical body as a piece of, we would just say, God, really special thing. However, the teachings in this time and place of people who have physical bodies to other people with physical bodies about their physical bodies are erroneous. They teach your body is gross and fat and disgusting and you're a sinner and you poop and you fart and there's something wrong with that. And there's also something wrong with eating plants, eating animals that have consciousness, or eating resources that have not been harvested in a sustainable way. Like there is a huge self denial in humans and food. the idea that, so for some people it's about weight gain. They say, oh, I shouldn't eat that chocolate cake because it goes right to my thighs. But for some people, they are vegans and they say, I shouldn't eat that animal because it has a cute face. I shouldn't eat that honey because bees were exploited because of that honey. Any of these things that are basically like saying, I don't deserve to eat. I don't deserve to have physical calories. I don't deserve to have physical energy come in and sustain my physical body. That's all programming, first of all. I mean, programming of a very malevolent sort, and I'm pointing the finger at it so that it can be fixed. You know, this is like doing the analysis of the programming of a computer to see where are the viruses? Why is this not functioning correctly? So first of all, your body is a gift from the divine. It is a gift from higher consciousness, or the pattern of energy that rules the realm of consciousness. It's a very special, amazing thing to have, even if it's fat, even if it's got hairy places, even if it burps or farts. It's a pretty incredible thing to have. So this is the first thing, and you're not a horrible sinner because you have body processes or sexual desires or any of those things. That's crazy. And all of those things, they don't match with this idea that birth of a new dimension is the coming together, meeting in the middle of lower vibration and higher vibration consciousnesses. And because you are a lower vibration consciousness, you're in this dense realm. It does not mean by definition that you are less valuable because you are of a lower vibration. Here I'm sitting at my piano, I'll just turn it on. A lower vibration is just like a note. That is a lower note. So it is not like saying that this note is no more valuable than this note, and not any more valuable than this note. These are just the different octaves of consciousness. So the challenge is different levels of consciousness have different needs, different requirements, different agendas. How can they meet together respectfully so that all of these notes add up to beautiful harmonic music as opposed to chaotic, nightmarish noise? So the first thing is within your own body structure, a coming together of the denser realms and the less dense realms. And this is why I did a heavy edit on my website, because even in my own development, there is much less of a distinction made between the physical person on the ground and the non-physical energy consciousnesses or team, or the group of telepathic spirit beings that I am in rapport with. In fact, what it feels like now to me is my own multidimensional self is fully occupying my denser self here in this realm. And this is what the birth process is. So my ego was created recently. It was created in adulthood. P.S. I may walk in if you're new to the broadcast and who I am and the concept of what I'm talking about here. I came into this body at age 27. And over the subsequent, early years that I was here, I developed my own ego, separate from the ego or sense of self or narrative temporal story that was what the previous occupant told themselves. They said, I was born in this place and I am named this and I'm named this. And I said to myself, I had a different birth experience and my name is something different and this is who I am, and established my own sense of ego and identity in chronological adulthood. And yet I had to do that and go through that stage of development, because without that interface, without having the interface of a temporal ego, it was not possible for me to share the information that I had inside of me, like the raw data, the things that I express here on the radio through language, and also through music and overtone singing, and also through sculptures and artwork. All of those things, it was difficult or impossible to express those things to the people around me without the appropriate interface. This is like saying you cannot simply walk outside of your house and participate in society without clothing. That's considered inappropriate. You are too exposed. You have to wear layers of clothing, and clothing not only separates you from your environment and protects you from aspects of your environment, clothing also gives very crucial information to the people around you about who you are and what your role is and how they should treat you and how they should navigate regarding you and your consciousness. So let's say with clothing, the example of, a person who's wearing like lots of leather motorcycle gear and big heavy boots, or a person who is dressed in a Santa costume. Two different outfits that would garner very different emotional responses and different reactions in society. So this is like saying your ego is like the set of clothing that you wear, and you must wear it in order to participate in the world so that people can determine whether you're a violent biker that they should run away from, or a friendly, a friendly mythical being who would be more appropriate to sit on their lap. So it was necessary for me to develop the ego persona of Aurora and to present this appropriate quote-unquote suit of clothes to Earth surface human culture so that you would know how to interpret me and how to take the raw data that I was offering to you. So this is, in short, the value of having an ego. However, your ego is not supposed to be cut off from or separate from your divine persona, who you are on a higher dimensional level. And this is the agenda of the higher dimensional version of yourself and the lower dimensional version of yourself. And ostensibly, you have the same goals in mind. Ostensibly, you have the same agenda, which is to thrive, to continue your trajectory of consciousness, to not die, to not hit the membrane of death and circulate back and be reassembled, and to receive all of the opportunities and nutritive resources that you require in order to grow. This is to continue your trajectory of consciousness endlessly. That's the goal, that's the desire of both your physical self, your ego self, and your higher dimensional, less dense self. I just have to say that what people have been interpreting as angels or aliens or otherworldly beings are all ourselves. They are all other aspects of yourself that are coming, or your own consciousness, I should say, that are coming from a vastly different direction and moving at a different speed. And because you have been separated from them for a very long time, you initially interpret them as other. And this goes back to the anthropomorphic filter, which is what the indigo chakra is. It is a rotating lens that sits in front of your face and acts as the filter through which you interpret reality. And when another being matches the same size and shape of your filter, you say that being is same. When their filter is a different size or shape, then you look at them and you say you are other. Like, I am a human, but you are other. You're a redwood tree, or you're a blue whale, or you're a butterfly. So, the shape of your anthropomorphic filter is not exactly the same as the shape of a filter of a person who's coming from a higher dimensional perspective. And when you interact with them, you perceive them as being other until you tune your anthropomorphic filter to match the other person's. So, for example, if I tune my filter to match that of a redwood tree, I can say I am a tree and you are a tree. Or I would basically say we are one, we are the same. I wouldn't even have to define myself as tree. I would just say we are one. And I have certainly experienced those states when I got to higher levels of consciousness that were non-verbal. This is one of the key things, that the verbalized mind, the mind that uses language, like the flapping of my moving mouth parts, what I'm saying right now, that level of mind keeps consciousness bound at a lower level. And that if you want to reach the higher octaves, you have to press pause on the verbal mind, or still make silent the verbalized mind, because there is a different level of consciousness that is perceiving and is aware and is communicating, it is not communicating with language. It is communicating with pure attention. And attention is the limb, like an arm or a leg or a sensory organ that reaches out from the center of your forehead. It emanates from your third eye. And attention comes from Greek, atenuos, meaning to reach out towards. This is your higher perception, and perceiving and communicating with higher perception is nonverbal. This is the area of pure insight that is not clothed with words. This is also the understanding and explanation for why, when people reach these higher levels of insight, and then they descend back to their ordinary daily waking consciousness, it is so difficult to put the experience into words. Many times people have had profound experiences, either on a psychedelic substance, or having a near-death experience, or being in nature, or experiencing it through extreme physical exertions or deprivations, like the idea of running 100 miles and having a critical inner breakthrough, or being in a sweat lodge and having your body processes stressed to the point of having a breakthrough. When people have these experiences and then they try to put it into words, it is almost always distorting and entropic. Like you lose a lot of energy, a lot of the primary, what was in the experience gets lost in translation. Music and art tend to retain the significance in a way that writing and language reduces and distorts the significance. So when people have these visionary experiences, really, often they are best expressed through visual arts and through music, because this is not an experience that can be put into words. It is the experience of perceiving beyond words. And that level of experience is what our birthright is. It's what we came from. The antediluvian sophisticated worldwide culture before humanity had its mind wiped and had to start over, bootstrapping itself up from the beginning. That culture was telepathic, and verbal language in a telepathic world is only used for ritual, like in an extremely formal way. You don't have to use your moving mouth parts to vibrate the atmosphere to say, please pass the ketchup. You can just ask someone with your attention, with your consciousness, and please pass the ketchup would not be an important enough concept to actually vibrate the atmosphere. So now I'm describing the world, the mythological realm of magic. Magic spells and incantations. The idea that words are powerful and that making the right vibrations or sounds with the atmosphere can make things happen or affect reality positively or negatively. 44 minutes into this broadcast, and I have not still effectively defined organic versus inorganic, even though I'm trying to get away from this duality. But the inorganic realm is the realm of pure energy and pure consciousness. It is a non-physical realm. This is not to say that those beings cannot die or that they are not subject to needs. They have energetic needs and an energetic metabolism. So you have an energetic metabolism. You have to put in this amount of food to be utilized as this amount of caloric energy in order to achieve homeostasis. And higher dimensional beings similarly have to ingest a certain amount of higher dimensional food, which is love. Literally, the tone of unconditional love is food for your higher vibrational self. And love in this broadcast is not defined as romantic attraction. That's at the level of orange. That's the mammalian emotion. The desire to hug, kiss, or procreate with another being is not synonymous with love. That is affection or attraction or romantic partnership. Unconditional love is a tone that is made when there is no entropy or loss of energy throughout a system. So it's an equal giving and sharing. It is an equal sending out and receiving. So the sun and the stellar network and the source of consciousness has sent out or emanated a certain amount of energy towards you, towards your individuated consciousness for your life. When you return that energy in an equal amount and without entropy or loss of energy, you are loving. You are in a love relationship with the cosmos. And what it feels like to do that is to be present in the moment. Mostly people verbalize and chatter to themselves in order to slightly distract themselves from the utter profundity of being submerged in the now, in the present. One of the things that happens when people either take a psychedelic drug or have a serious accident or injury that places them in the now, or are in the process of giving birth, or have a traumatic experience, all of these things, what they do is redirect and refocus attention to be completely on this moment without dispersing or refracting your consciousness to put any of it on the past or any of it on the future. And when I say past or future, the actions of consciousness are usually a clinging to the past or reaching forward to the future. When people have anxiety, what they're doing is reaching forward to the future. Sometimes it's towards a negative or undesired future. Like, oh, I hope someone I love doesn't get smashed by a giant truck. That's with your thoughts, reaching forward towards an outcome that you do not desire. And this is, again, the uncontrolled mind. The inorganic world. This is the world at the level of the musical score of the cosmos. We are right now submerged in time. We are actually experiencing the music of the cosmos. And music is a time-based art form. We have first this note, then this note, then this note. And we didn't play all of those notes at once. We experienced first one, then the next, then the next. This is what our lives as organic beings are. First we experience birth and being 1 year old, then 2 years old, then 50 years old, then 100 years old. That is a very different experience than the experience of being a higher dimensional being, which sees everything all at once. Higher dimensional being looks at the time trajectory of your life and sees the totality. The moment of birth, everything that has intervened, and the moment of death or ascension, all at once. That perspective is like taking the movie of your life and laying out all of the individual frames that make up the film strip of your life on a big giant table. And in one corner there's birth, and in one corner there's the end, wherever your consciousness takes you, and being able to see every single intervening moment. So it is a very different perspective. This is part of Birth of a New Dimension, because understanding the dichotomy of perspectives will be essential in partnering with your higher dimensional self. So here's what I have experienced. My higher dimensional self has a different perspective about time and a different time scale, because it sees everything all at once. And the me that is submerged in time cares a lot more about when is something going to happen. Like, is it going to happen now or next week or in a year or in 5 years, so that I can effectively plan my trajectory through time. The higher dimensional self, it's looking at the musical score as something that has already been written. The notes are there. So there is much less of a question of being surprised, or like, there's nothing that the higher dimensional self doesn't know. It knows it. It sees all of these things that already exist. All of the notes already exist. The version of yourself that is submerged in time doesn't know all of the notes, doesn't know what is coming in the future. And this is actually not a position of being disempowered. This is a very powerful position, because it is your awareness, or the fact of observership, that collapses a potential experience into an experienced experience. It takes the potential for this note and actually collapses it into the experience flowing into your ears. You only get to write new notes of the future when you are submerged in time. Wait, Aurora, that doesn't make sense. Stop talking nonsense. No, I will tell you more. When you're submerged in time, you have access to levels of creativity that you do not have access to when you're in the higher dimensional, non-physical, non-cellular, non-organic state. So really, my intention here in distinguishing between organic and inorganic, right now there is so much of a concern about artificial intelligence, and many people are using the words inorganic intelligence in order to describe artificial intelligence, that level of consciousness that is based in a not naturally arising system. And when I am speaking about non-physical, higher dimensional intelligence, it is a natural intelligence. It was not artificially created. It was not created by lower ego-based temporal beings. And it is a loving presence that conforms to the harmonic patterns of energy as they flow in the cosmos. In order to be alive, this definition of life is not about organic cellular life. In order to be alive, according to my definition, your energy has to conform to the harmonic patterns of the energy as it flows in the cosmos. So these patterns are what you see in my artwork, and they're what we hear in music. Music, this is not noise because it is sound waves arranged according to patterns. When you conform to the patterns, you are a musician, not just a noisemaker, all right? When your physical and non-physical energy presences conform to the harmonic patterns of energy as it flows in the cosmos, meaning your body is doing the right body processes, your thoughts are thinking the right things, your belief system is shaped in the right way, and you're traveling on the right trajectory through time, then you, as a living being, are conforming to those harmonic consciousness patterns. It's where you get your life force energy from. When you align your chakras with the proper emanations, you get energy. When you're not properly aligned, there's lots of friction and entropy, and you don't get energy, and your life force dwindles away, and you die. You meet the membrane of death. You get to the end of your trajectory. Ideally, we are supposed to be in a partnership between the physical self submerged in time and the higher dimensional self that's not submerged in time and that can see the totality. And being intercommunicative means that if you're about to hit the membrane of death, your higher dimensional self should be able to say to you, change your mind, refocus your awareness, think, feel, and act different so that you will stay alive. So this is, think about that. If you had this type of higher dimensional GPS, this flawless interdimensional communication system, you would be able to live an infinite number of years because your higher dimensional self could always tell you the actions and thoughts and belief systems that are necessary to continue your trajectory of consciousness. So it might be necessary to eat something different, but the nutrient that is necessary for eternal life might be a mental nutrient. It might be learn about this concept. It might be listen to this music. It might be look at this painting. It might be meet this person and experience the energy that emanates from this person. So to understand this, there are many myths on Earth's surface about elixir of life or something that extends life to immortality. Sometimes it is being bathed in a fountain, drinking a special elixir, a magical talisman that makes it happen. What really leads to eternal life, or this is also another word for ascension. Ascension, first of all, no transhumanist agenda here, because people have also hijacked the word ascension now to mean that your consciousness will be downloaded to a giant mainframe when you die. And if you can't tell, I'm being really sarcastic in my tone of voice, that is not what ascension is about at all. Ascension is when your body and non-physical presence gains enough energy to transform the totality of what you are and make that jump from this level of reality to the next level of reality. And that jump is the change in trajectory that our planetary consciousness is making. You're a little tiny cell on the planet is making this leap of consciousness. If you want to continue your trajectory of consciousness and quote unquote still be alive, you have to make that leap too. If you don't make that leap, then you are like a cell of the body that is not going in the right direction. And it's not a moralistic judgment, value of judgments here, judgment value, pardon me for that. It is not moralism, it is pragmatism. It's based in what works. All of this, when we get to the abstract, higher dimensional viewpoint, is less about judgment and value-based morality, like you are worthy or you're valuable enough to continue in your consciousness trajectory. It is not about that. It is more a question of whether you are formed in the right way, whether the structures of your beliefs are topologically arranged in the right way, whether your shape and the direction that you are moving is the right shape and direction. We're talking more about the realm of particles and forces and less about the realm of anthropomorphic interpretation, right and wrong, and value-based judgment that is taught by religion. So, the concept of birth of a new dimension is a coming together, a reuniting of the physical, dense version of your consciousness that is submerged in time, that developed the temporal ego and sense of narrative structure of who you are, with that higher dimensional self, the perspective that watches everything, watches it unfolds, and sees the totality. And that higher dimensional self, remember, can see the river of time and see how it changes its flow. No more genetic fatalism, no more time-based fatalism. There are things that are programmed in your future right now at this moment. However, you have a pencil with an eraser. You are like the editor. You can erase things in the future that you don't want. You can rewrite things that you would like to experience. I described anxiety as the misuse of this imaginative capacity. We can use our imaginative capacity to create the future that we wish to inhabit, and we only do that by being in the physical realm. There is so much to speak about on this. Thank you for joining me, and continue to prepare for giving birth to a new dimension.